Hey guys, today what I'm going to talk about is sensors, coils, and injectors. Let's work with the Ford Triton V8, okay, because I had one that I had to figure out some misfiring issues, some hesitation issues, amongst some other things, and a MAF sensor issue which I corrected easily. Okay, I can tell you people how to save yourself a hell of a lot of money if you want to listen to me. I've got 44 years experience. I started out when I was about 14. My father, he didn't work for a salvage yard, but he was an enthusiast that on his days off, he liked to go to a salvage yard. You know, he was just an auto enthusiast or whatever. That's when I was a child. I lived in the country in Romney, Texas as a young teen. I had my first car when I was 14. You know, because we could drive without a license if it had farm truck plates. If it was based on farming items or, you know, whatever. Started out working on tractors, Alice Chalmers and John Deere, and then moved on to automobiles over the years. So I've got right at 44 years experience, and I've done just about everything. I'm the guy that's changed out automatic transmissions in my driveway, swapped engine types out. I've never been into race cars or increasing horsepower. I've always loved stock assemblies, you know. But anyway, let's get to the point here. Let's talk about the electric injectors and the sensors and the 8 coils that are notorious problems or an epidemic in the Ford Triton engines, namely 4.6 to 5.4 engines. Alright, let's start with misfire. Okay, most people, they'll have the code read and it'll show number 3 cylinder, number 8, you know, whatever. And it'll show the coil is the issue, or the plug for that particular cylinder. Most of the time, all it is the plug. It plugs into the coil. Okay, now let's say they have a problem and it's injector for a particular cylinder. Each of those injectors also have a plug. So based on your calls and your electric injectors in a Triton engine, you've got 8 plugs on each side, 8 2-prong plugs. Those plugs can make them misfire, people. Most of the time the injectors are good and all the coils are good. Because you know, coils rarely go bad. Most people don't know that. And the way that those coils in a Triton are elevated, you know, up above the engine, actually they're elevated better than coils were in the 50s and 60s and some early 70s, because the coils were bolted directly to the intake manifold or to the engine block on most of the old ones, to where they receive more heat. As to where the 8 coils on these Tritons, they're actually a fair distance from, and they're not touching the engine at all. So, you know, they're up above. Those should last forever. Those coils, I doubt if those coils ever actually go bad. Because if they did, there would have to be a major manufacturing defect there. Because how could it? A coil like was good for 30 years that was installed in an automobile in 1949, a 1949 Chevrolet or Ford. The one cylindrical coil, those were good forever. You know, unless they rusted through, which some of them did after about 30 years. And but the plugs that go to those electric fuel injectors, all by the fuel rail, and the plugs that go to the coils. Usually, if a person, you don't even have to unplug them. If you just take WD-40, penetrating them, spray them, and then fill up the wires themselves, you know, up by the plug. I had one on my 2002 Ford Super Crew Cab. One wire was actually raw, and it was actually kicking spark to some metal part on there. Okay, I just separated the two wires, you know, to where they're incorporated together, spaced them out a little. It stopped it from jumping, and I put a little Vaseline on it. That's another thing. Vaseline is better for a non-conductive type of oil or whatever, because Vaseline does not conduct electricity. And unlike dielectric grease will eat synthetics. It will play on your wiring over a period of time. I use Vaseline, you know, other than, you know, the prongs. Anytime I unplug something, I use WD-40. I spray those connections real good, you know, so they get better contact. But anytime, okay, if you decide to unplug any sensor or your electric fuel injector plugs or coil plugs, disconnect the battery, because see, when you reconnect them back up, the surge, it can harm electrical circuitry. It can cause harm. Anytime you unplug any electronic item on the engine, on your car or around the engine, disconnect the battery ground. Okay? That's not going to hurt anything. So with this being known, now let's talk about sensors. Okay? I ran my OBD2 scanner tester on my 02 Ford. It was had service engine soon. Okay, I came up with the P103 code. Okay, what that is the MAF sensor. Okay, so what I did, I disconnected the battery, and I unplugged the MAF sensor. I sprayed it with WD-40, made sure the wiring was clean, you know, everything, no corrosion around the wires. And then, you know, I took the air cleaner out, and then down in that big tube, I just sprayed WD-40 on it, and then took a paper towel and wiped the reader part, you know, of the MAF sensor, and then plugged it back in, hooked my battery back up. And do you know, just cleaning these connectors, I was able to get rid of the misfiring out of that engine, and I was also able to get rid of the MAF sensor problem without spending any money at all, with a little Vaseline and a little penetrating oil, people. See, and I drove it for a while, and then, you know, I erased the code, of course, you know, for the P103, you know, code for the MAF sensor. I've driven the vehicle 2.5 months, about 208 miles. The service engine light hasn't come back on. So see, a lot of times, you know, these crooks, you go to a service place, even a dealership, you know, well, you know, they're all crooks, to hell with them. But you figure you have a misfire. Okay, that OBD2 or whatever type tester they use, it's going to show misfire on cylinder number 3, misfire on cylinder number 7. Okay, they're going to make more money. They're just going to say, we got to change those 2 coils and those spark plugs. Generally, no you don't. It's the connectors. That's all it is, you know. It's just before you clean connectors, remember, disconnect the battery. clean this stuff. Make sure the connections are good. The chain is only as strong as the lock, and the lock is only as strong as the chain, people. And I was able to get rid of misfire on number 3 and number 7 cylinder, plus MAF sensor, mass airflow, sensor code. All that stuff was just the connections. It's a 13-year-old vehicle. That's all it was. It was just the connections. And because the engine immediately started running right. Another thing is myths about the Triton engine. Okay, I've heard so many things, comments at YouTube. I've even seen it in Ford forums on the internet. People say plugs blow out of the spark plug hose. People, if that's happening, it's due to the last person that installed the spark plugs. Because there's no way that can happen if they're installed correctly. Here's a couple of things people need to consider. If it's threaded all the way in and it's snug, a spark plug is not going to come out of the spark plug hole, unless let's say you're using the wrong seat type on it. Now, for my 02 F150 Ford, I noticed I ordered plugs for it. I went ahead and ordered mine from Amazon, but I looked at my parts supplier that I use. I'm not going to give their name because I don't want to badmouth any parts store. But they listed, where it has this fits your vehicle, and you add your vehicle. It showed 2 different spark plugs to fit my vehicle for that same 4.6 V8 engine. And the seats were totally different. One had the beveled seat, one had a flat seat. Now people, that can't be right. If you put a spark plug with a flat seat in an engine head that is designed for the beveled, slanted seat, that spark plug could work its way out because it's going to have an air gap there. Yeah, and that can cause a big problem. That 4.6 V8 Triton I've got in my truck, that has to have the beveled seat. And I found out that the best spark plug provider that built that plug best is Autolite. They work hand in hand with Ford Motor Company, Motorcraft, Autolite, so that's something you need to consider. Make sure the seat type is right. Okay, another problem I noticed at this part site, okay, they have a plug for that same engine that the body of the plug is longer. Not the porcelain part, but the body of the plug before the threads start. And guess what? Being that the body of the spark plug was longer, there was only half as many spark plug threads on the spark plug. That's not going to work because, see, with that, you put that in that engine. Okay, inside that cylinder, on half of those spark plug threads are going to be exposed. The compression strokes will eat away those threads in that unused part where that spark plug's not coming through. Get the spark plug with the shorter body, with the longer threads like it's designed for, that has the tapered seat. And then this will depend from engine to engine. But no, as far as these engines saying they blow spark plugs out of the hole, that is nonsense. It's because of something somebody did that worked on it the last time that didn't take their time to familiarize themselves with what they were dealing with. Probably anybody that had one of those plugs to blow out the whole plug. Now I'm not mixing this up with people saying plugs go out or quit working. These people are saying the plug literally blows out of the hole. Okay, I think what might have happened there, they may have been using the plug with the longer body with only half the threads necessary for that design with the flat seat. Yeah, that could blow out of there. But see, it's the wrong part used for the wrong mechanical item. Okay? But anyway, I hope I helped some of you, you know, to understand, well, you could actually save an enormous amount of money. Because I noticed one thing, I've watched a lot of YouTube videos to help even educate myself on these issues. I'm always ready to learn too. You know, I'm not just the teacher here, I also am always open to learn. And one thing I've noticed, people, they'll read this tester and it'll say misfire, number 4 cylinder, number 6, number 8. And they just start changing a coil and an injector. They never check the plugs. Golly, people. I just fixed one with 2 misfire codes and a sensor code with penetrating oil. I mean, imagine what a dealership would have hit me for, or some repair shop. Man, they would have already had me for $300 or $400 for something that was never necessary. But anyway, talk to you all later. Bye.